Welcome back to Financial Independence 101. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about stacking gold, holding physical gold. Is this the solution for you during these times? We have a lot of instability internationally. We have inflation running rampant, could be worse, and could possibly get way worse if we go into hyperinflation, depending on what governments do. But getting into this, protecting yourself, protecting your wealth, protecting your value with gold. Is that something for you? Is that a solution? I'm going to get into talking about this, the good and the bad, the pluses and minuses. There obviously are positives, but there's also drawbacks. So I'm going to get into all of that and touch a little bit on gold's little sister silver coming up. All right, so for the purpose of this video, we're talking about physical gold, not owning it in any other way, no other form, no certificate, not having your broker hold it. And I'm just saying holding it, owning it yourself. And I'm not even saying I would not even put it in a bank deposit box. I mean, they're probably safe, but there's some chances that it's not as safe there as it would be at home in your safe or wherever you would like to store it yourself. But comparing gold to cash that is stuffed in your mattress, gold stuffed in your safe, cash in your mattress, gold is going to hold its value. That's the number one thing, is gold holds its value, and it will hold its value forever. There's going to be a lot of reasons why gold holds its value. Gold is used for manufacturing for everyday products, so there is a need or a demand for it, a constant demand for it. Also for jewelry, there is a need for gold when it comes to jewelry, and people desire having gold as one of the main draws to buying jewelry and encasing other stones with gold. Now, gold cannot be replicated. It's not something like money, like fiat currency, like cash, the US dollar. They can just create more out of thin air. They can create another trillion and cause inflation. Gold has to be mined. It is a finite substance, cannot be created. Now, they've tried to replicate and make gold in other ways, but it doesn't really work. And here we are. The only way to get gold is to mine it. So it's finite. That's why it's called a precious metal, and it is hard to get. There's just only so much out there, and demand is continually increasing for it, so there'll always be value for that gold. Now, the current price of gold is $21.93, so round it off to $2,200, and of course it's going to change. It changes all the time. This is a chart that goes back as far as this chart would go, but I remember in early 2000s, maybe it was 03, something along those lines, one of my servers at a restaurant said that I should be buying gold, and I looked into it. It was $250 at the time. I was like, oh, I'm not spending that much on that little 1 ounce coin, but a 1 ounce coin, a 1 ounce bullion, is worth $2,200 now, almost 10 times. So I would have made 10 times my investment. But is that really only just kept up with inflation? I think that at the time gold was really at an all-time low. It was really, really low at $250. Probably should have got in, but hey, you win some, you lose some, you make some mistakes. All right, here we go. I'm going to give an example of how gold will act during inflation, hyperinflation. So the reality is that more than likely we're just going to keep pedaling along, and we're going to have this 3.5% inflation. That's what they tell you it is. But your real world, you're having to pay out 20% more for all your goods and services and necessities. And so you're feeling a 20% inflation, but it's going to say 3% inflation. But I want to kind of identify gold with something everybody else can identify, and that's a McDonald's cheeseburger. So right now you can get a McDonald's cheeseburger around here for about $2, and maybe it's $2.20, maybe it's $2.50. You can get the 2 for $4 special or whatever. And if you're in California or one of those more expensive places, you've already felt the impact of massive inflation. You probably can't find any franchises there selling a cheeseburger for $2. If you do live there, what is your cheapest cheeseburger at McDonald's right now? It'd be a nice set point for prior to hyperinflation kind of scenario. So if gold's right now $2,200, and just kind of making numbers even, and a cheeseburger is $2, after hyperinflation, this is what I would expect to see. Now, hyperinflation is an extreme. We're looking at extremes. Obviously, what's going on right now is a very mild version of inflation compared to what hyperinflation is. But if it goes up with hyperinflation, and McDonald's cheeseburger now, the cheapest one you can find is $100 or 50 times what it was before we saw hyperinflation. And what causes hyperinflation? Really bad monetary policy, printing money to spend, for the government to spend when they do not have that said money. They're creating out of thin air, and they're devaluing the currency. That's also called debasing the currency. Looking at this gold coin here would be worth $110,000. Now you're looking at that and you're probably thinking, well, Mike, if this gold coin is $110,000, I made so much money by buying a $2,200 coin. But you didn't really make any money. You're not going to get rich investing in gold. That's just not the way it is. When you invest in gold, you are literally just investing to store value, to preserve wealth. You are not going to get rich with gold, because even though $110,000 looks like a lot, look how much it costs to have a McDonald's cheeseburger for $100. But if you go out and eat at a restaurant after a hyperinflationary environment, then you're going to be spending $3,500 for an average restaurant meal to feed your family. Here's another concept. So if you have a gold coin, a gold bullion, and let's just say in the economic terms we talk about widgets. Widget is a good or service that you're consuming, and you can currently buy 200 widgets with that one gold coin. Then after hyperinflation, you should still have that ability to buy 200 widgets with that gold coin. But it gets a little bit trickier than that, but that is kind of the thought process. If you had cash, if you had your $2,200, you'd only be able to buy what? 10 widgets instead of 200? You'd have lost way more than 90% of your value of cash if you had cash stuffed in your mattress. So now it's obvious to see the good points of owning gold, but what's the negatives? What are the bad points of owning gold? You are not making any money. You're not making interest and dividends. So if you were to take that cash stuffed in your mattress and put it into a bank that still has FDIC insurance, which I do believe FDIC will be paying out up to the minimum, at least for the short term, so banks are somewhat relatively safe for the short term, then you could be making 5%. It's real easy right now to make 5%. And we may never in my lifetime see 5% again. It just may not happen. We may not, because we can't afford to due to the national debt. So I'm taking advantage of higher interest rates myself, and I'm really enjoying that. That's a whole lot of fun. And it almost makes you giddy that you're making a little bit extra side income off of the cash that you have laying around. But you're not making that on your gold. So you got gold in your safe doing nothing. But if you had gold cash in your safe, it'd be doing nothing. Also, in fact, it would be losing money. And that's just the way it is. It loses its value. So look at gold only as a store of value, but it doesn't deliver interest and dividends that you can live and pay your inflated electric bill with. Next, you have to store your gold, store physical gold. There's always that concern. There's a lot of problems. What they say is that you should have it in a fireproof safe. And there's debates on that. If your house burns down, you can go find where it is. There should be a big clump of gold. Gold melts, and then you can just remelt it into whatever you want. Or you can just take it and sell it in that form. But gold itself, it has to be stored. It's a physical item that you have to physically store it. And if you keep it in the bank, you have to pay for that deposit box. And if that bank fails, what happens to that deposit box? It's not protected like FDIC insurance. There's a lot of things to consider, a lot of factors. And then if you don't have it in a safe, you just have it in some random spot hid. Some people say they like to bury it, but there's a lot of things to consider when you're storing your gold. Next up, when you're trying to cash out gold, you're not going to be able to go to McDonald's and cash it out. You're not going to be able to buy burgers there. You can't take it to the grocery store. You can't go to Walmart. You can't go to these places with your gold and do anything with it. It is a store of value. You must find somebody that specializes in this area, that specializes in gold, or find a like-minded person that is going to barter with you. Barter system. Now, with that, will you get 110,000 cash? No, you're going to get a certain percentage below spot. If spot's 110, then you might get 100,000 or 105,000 or 95,000, depending on what that dealer is going to be charging for the fee, because that's how they make money. They have to go below, they pay below spot, sell above spot, and that's the spread. So you're going to be a victim of the spread, but you still get money, but you will be technically cashing it in, but you'll cash it in at less widgets, a less buying power of the time, but it'll still be better than having $2,300, $2,200 of cash that has lost all its value. Now, this is why I kind of think that silver's a little bit better. If you're going to cash in gold, most of the time they're not going to have $105,000 in cash and hand you cash. You're going to get paid through PayPal, a bank transfer, or something like that, and there'll be some sort of a digital footprint identified with that, and then that is also going to go to a taxation, a 1099-K, and those situations. Now, if you deal with silver in much smaller quantities, and you just need enough, say, silver's along for the ride for $1,000, $1,500, or something like that, it's much easier for someone to just, hey, okay, I'll give you $1,500 cash for your silver after a hyperinflationary environment than $110,000 for your gold. And so with all of this, silver is much easier, smaller increments, and it's much easier, in my opinion, than dealing with gold. You also have the other situation, is your gold real? How do you test your gold? Do you have a testing kit? Do you know everything about that? And so if you are dealing with gold, you must have testing kits. You must know that your gold is real and genuine. And same thing with silver, but if you make a mistake with silver, it's a much smaller financial error. Lastly, we're going to get into gold confiscation. It happened in 1933, could happen again. I don't believe it will ever happen again. I just don't. But that doesn't mean it won't. And with that, gold was confiscated before by the US government, and it could happen again. So for that, if you keep your gold in jewelry as jewelry, then they didn't confiscate it. Well, they said you could have so much jewelry, but they never confiscated jewelry, technically. And they went after your bullions and your certificates and those things. So with that, I would keep it in jewelry or silver, because they haven't confiscated silver before. So this is something, it's a concern that's out there, although I don't think it's ever really going to happen. So I hope you enjoyed this look at gold. I hope I was able to explain to you what would happen in an inflationary environment. This is an extreme hyperinflationary environment, but also just thinking about gold just for standard, for just regular purposes of investing as a store of value. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Like and subscribe. And Financial Independence 101 is out.